Have you ever felt like you're wading through a sea of information? You want to get to those big, deep ideas, but it can feel overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely. There's so much out there, and it's easy to feel lost in the details.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving deep, but with a bit of a twist.
Oh, a twist, you say? I'm intrigued.
Instead of focusing on a specific philosophical concept, we're looking at a philosopher's approach to knowledge, how they tackled those big questions.
So we're acting like philosophers ourselves, examining their methods. I like it.
Precisely. We're looking at Simplicius of Cilicia, a philosopher from the 5th, 6th century CE. We want to understand how he engaged with, well, the entire history of philosophical thought that came before him.
Simplicius was grappling with some seriously heavyweight thinkers. We're talking the pre-Socratics, Plato, Aristotle, the whole game.
Right. So think of this deep dive as your guide to understanding not just what Simplicius thought, but how he went about thinking it.
A fascinating perspective indeed. He wasn't just passively accepting what he read. He was interpreting, questioning, synthesizing, truly engaging.
And that's what we're after today. Uncovering those core strategies Simplicius used to do philosophy. What can we learn from his techniques? How might they help us grapple with complex ideas today, no matter what we're studying?
Let's start with the man himself, who was Simplicius.
Well, he was born in Cilicia, modern-day Turkey, right around the same time as another philosopher we've discussed before, John Philoponus.
Interesting. So they were contemporaries navigating a similar intellectual landscape.
Exactly. And Simplicius's education was top-notch. He studied in Alexandria under Amyrnius, son of Hermias, and later in Athens with Damascus.
These weren't just any teachers, they were part of a direct line of intellectual inheritance. Simplicius himself held Proclus in such high regard, he referred to him as the teacher of my teachers and successor of Plato.
That speaks volumes about Proclus's influence on the Athenian Neoplatonist school.
Absolutely. Proclus was a giant in the field, and understanding Simplicius's connection to that lineage is key to understanding his own philosophical leanings.
And his life wasn't all ivory tower contemplation. Things got a bit shaky in 529 CE with Emperor Justinian's edict.
Ah, yes, that was a pivotal moment, often considered the end of classical antiquity. It led to the closure of the Platonic Academy and a shift in the intellectual climate for non-Christian philosophers.
Leading to a rather interesting journey for Simplicius and some of his fellow Neoplatonists. They set off to the court of the Persian king Chosroes.
Hoping to find a more hospitable environment for their philosophical pursuits, perhaps even a ruler embodying the ideal philosopher king.
It seems they were a bit disappointed with their time in Persia, though. Fortunately, they were able to return after a peace treaty between Persia and Rome in 532 CE.
And it's a good thing they did. Those libraries and resources back in the Roman world were essential for the work Simplicius is best known for, his extensive commentaries.
He wrote on Aristotle's categories, physics, on the heavens, and possibly on the soul, and on Epictetus's handbook as well.
That's quite a range. But it's interesting that despite his deep admiration for Plato, there are no surviving commentaries directly on Plato's works, at least not the major ones, aside from one on the Phaedo.
Right. We have to wonder what those might have contained.
Perhaps they're out there somewhere, waiting to be rediscovered. But what we do have from Simplicius is a treasure trove of philosophical insights. And a major part of that is how he preserved earlier philosophical thought within his commentaries. He didn't just give us his own interpretations, he meticulously quoted his predecessors, often at length.
We're talking foundational figures like Anaximander, Parmenides, Zeno, Melissus, Empedocles, and Anaxagoras. The list goes on. He's credited with preserving at least 2/3 of all the verbatim quotes we have from the pre-Socratics.
He played such a vital role in ensuring those voices weren't lost. Think about it. Without Simplicius, our understanding of the development of philosophical thought would be vastly different.
It's like he built a bridge across centuries, allowing us to access those early ideas. And this wasn't random or haphazard. Simplicius had a very specific idea of what made a good commentator what he called a worthy exegete, and by extension, what it meant to engage with this vast philosophical tradition in a meaningful way.
Essentially, what does it mean to be a philosopher, to act as a philosopher when grappling with those who came before?
Let's unpack that idea of the worthy exegete, which he outlines beautifully in his introduction to the commentary on the categories. What are the key characteristics Simplicius highlights?
First and foremost, you need a genuine grasp of the philosopher you're studying, what he calls their greatness of intellect. This isn't just about understanding their arguments, but appreciating their depth and brilliance.
So kind of intellectual humility, recognizing the brilliance of those you're engaging with.
Exactly. Then you need a solid understanding of their entire body of work, not just isolated passages. You have to understand their customary use of language, their typical modes of expression, their style. It's like getting to know a writer. You have to read more than just one piece to really understand them.
That's a good point. You can't just pull a quote out of context and expect to grasp the full meaning.
Precisely. And then there's impartial judgment, which Simplicius considered absolutely crucial. He argued that a good commentator shouldn't be overly critical out of some misplaced sense of superiority, nor blindly devoted, always trying to defend the philosopher no matter what.
Finding that balance is tricky. It's easy to fall into either camp, especially when you're passionate about a particular thinker or school of thought.
Simplicius famously said, "Plato or Aristotle are dear to me, but much dearer is the truth." That sums it up perfectly. We have to prioritize truth over blind allegiance.
I love that quote. It's a great reminder for all of us, really, to be open to challenging our own preconceptions. Now, Simplicius is also well known for his efforts to harmonize the philosophies of Plato and Aristotle, which might seem to contradict that impartial judgment we were just talking about.
That's an important point. But for Simplicius, harmony didn't mean forcing their ideas into perfect alignment. He was more focused on the underlying spirit or nous of their philosophies, looking beyond the literal wording, the lexis, to find deeper compatibility.
So it's about recognizing the core insights that might be expressed in different ways.
Exactly. It's like reading between the lines, seeing the bigger picture instead of getting bogged down in surface-level disagreements. He believed that at their core, Plato and Aristotle were ultimately aiming for the same truths, just approaching them from different angles.
He contrasted his own method with that of Alexander of Aphrodisias, who he felt often undermined that potential harmony.
Alexander tended to side with Aristotle against Plato, even when Aristotle's criticisms might have been directed at a simplified or misconstrued version of Plato's ideas.
So it's about recognizing the depth and nuance of each philosopher's position before drawing conclusions about their compatibility or incompatibility.
Precisely. Now, moving on to Simplicius's approach to engaging with those philosophical texts, it's fair to say he was incredibly systematic.
He really broke things down, didn't he?
His commentaries were lemmatized, meaning he'd take Aristotle's text, divide it into small digestible chunks, and then provide detailed commentary on each section.
Like meticulously annotating a book, paragraph by paragraph, sometimes even sentence by sentence.
Exactly. And within those comments, he would sometimes further differentiate between discussions of the philosophical content, what he called theoria, and the specific wording or linguistic choices, the lexis.
He also wasn't afraid to go on those fascinating digressions and include doxographies, right?
Oh, absolutely. Those were his opportunities to explore related ideas, bring in different perspectives, and provide historical context, enriching the discussion even further. The doxographies were essentially summaries of what earlier philosophers had to say on a particular topic.
It's like he was creating these multi-layered maps of philosophical thought, weaving together different threads and showing how they connect. He also frequently employed the method of difficulties and solutions, aporiae kai luces.
Ah, yes, where he'd identify potential problems or ambiguities within the text and then offer possible solutions. It was a way of actively engaging with the material, not just passively accepting it.
And he stressed the importance of identifying the main overarching topic, the scopos of a work.
He believed that correctly identifying the scopos, the core aim or purpose, was absolutely crucial for focused understanding. He was drawing on Iamblichus here, who emphasized this as well.
So it's about figuring out the main point, the central argument, before diving into the nitty-gritty details.
Exactly. Simplicius put it beautifully. For the goal, scopos, once correctly identified, defines and rectifies our thought, dianoia, so that we are not vainly transported out in every direction, but refer everything to it.
That's powerful. It's about having that clear compass to guide you through the complexities of a text.
And it's incredibly relevant, even today. When you're tackling a complex document or trying to synthesize information from multiple sources, the first question should be, what's the main point? What's the author trying to achieve? That focus can really help you sift through all the information and prioritize what matters.
Such a valuable lesson. And before diving into a text, Simplicius would also lay out a set of prolegomena, those preliminary points to frame the study. What kinds of questions would he ask?
These were like foundational questions to set the stage for deeper understanding. So for example, before tackling Aristotle's categories, he might ask, how should we classify Aristotle's writings as a whole? Where does this specific work fit within that broader framework? What is the overarching goal of Aristotle's philosophical project? What qualities should a good interpreter and exegete possess? He even considered why Aristotle might have chosen a particular writing style, why it might be obscure or challenging at times.
It's like he's creating this intellectual roadmap, guiding the reader and ensuring they have the necessary context before delving into the intricacies of the text itself.
Precisely. And it highlights how deep Simplicius's engagement with philosophy was. It wasn't just about passively absorbing information, it was about actively grappling with it, contextualizing it, and understanding it on multiple levels.
He was modeling how to be a truly active and engaged reader, a critical thinker, a philosopher.
And for Simplicius, that engagement wasn't solely intellectual. There was a deep spiritual dimension to his work as well.
A spiritual dimension. That's fascinating, especially considering he was often commenting on thinkers like Aristotle, who we might not immediately associate with spirituality.
True. But for Simplicius, philosophy and theology were deeply interconnected. In fact, his commentary on the heavens concludes with a prayer to the demiurge, and he refers to the entire work as a hymn.
So for him, the act of understanding the cosmos and its creator was itself a spiritual practice, a form of reverence.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that deeper connection between knowledge and the divine. And Philip Hoffman, a scholar of Simplicius, has observed that the usefulness of studying something like physics for Simplicius was to awaken love, truth, and faith in the soul.
It's about that transformative power of knowledge, not just the accumulation of facts.
Exactly. And that ultimate aim of union, or kenosis with the divine, aligns with the Platonic tradition's goal of assimilation to God.
It adds a whole new layer of meaning to the idea of a deep dive, doesn't it? It's not just intellectual exploration, but a journey of the soul as well.
Absolutely. And that spiritual dimension is key to understanding Simplicius's commitment to harmonizing Plato and Aristotle. We touched on some of his motivations earlier, but the broader intellectual context is also crucial here.
We're talking about the rise of Christianity and its impact on the philosophical landscape.
Exactly. As Christianity gained prominence, pagan philosophers faced increasing criticism. They were accused of harboring internal contradictions within their philosophical systems, essentially making Greek philosophy unreliable as a source of truth.
So there was pressure to demonstrate the consistency and validity of the philosophical tradition they were upholding.
Exactly. And Christian thinkers like John Philoponus were actively challenging the idea of easy agreement between Plato and Aristotle. Philoponus dismissed the harmonizer's argument that Aristotle only critiqued the superficial meaning of Plato's words as a fiction. He saw them as fundamentally at odds.
So Simplicius's project of showcasing the harmony between these two philosophical giants takes on a new significance in this context. It was a defense of the Hellenic intellectual tradition against these emerging critiques.
Precisely. He wanted to show that the ancient wisdom remains unrefuted. He was likely influenced by his teacher Ammonius in this approach, aiming to present a united front and emphasize the continuity and compatibility of Greek philosophical thought.
It's like he was building a bridge, not just between different thinkers, but between different eras, demonstrating the enduring value of this intellectual heritage.
And he used various strategies to achieve this. He interpreted the pre-Socratics as often speaking in riddles or veiled language. He suggested that Aristotle might be addressing the more superficial aspects of Plato's ideas for pedagogical reasons, to guide students towards a deeper understanding later on.
It's fascinating how he was constantly searching for those deeper connections and underlying unity. He wasn't just a commentator, he was an architect, weaving together these different strands of philosophical thought into a coherent whole.
Exactly. He was showing us one way to actively do philosophy, to engage with the great thinkers of the past in a way that's both rigorous and insightful.
So as we wrap up our own deep dive into the world of Simplicius, what are some key takeaways we can apply to our own intellectual journeys no matter what we're studying?
I think there are several. First, that deep respect for and engagement with those who came before us. Simplicius understood that we can't build upon knowledge without truly understanding it.
It's like that saying, we stand on the shoulders of giants.
Exactly. And second, that commitment to finding understanding and harmony, even amidst seemingly contradictory viewpoints. He reminds us to look beyond surface-level disagreements and search for those deeper connections, those shared insights.
It's about recognizing that complexity, that there might be multiple valid perspectives on a given issue.
Absolutely. And then there's the importance of context. Simplicius emphasized understanding the author's intentions, the overarching aim of a work, the historical context.
It's about seeing the bigger picture, not just focusing on isolated details.
Precisely. And finally, that view of philosophy as not just an academic pursuit, but a meaningful, even spiritual endeavor. It's about connecting with something larger than ourselves, striving for wisdom and self-transformation.
So, as we navigate our own intellectual landscapes, perhaps we can take inspiration from Simplicius. How can we approach those seemingly contradictory ideas we encounter with a spirit of generosity and open-mindedness? How can we, in our own way, act as philosophers, building upon the insights of those who came before us to better understand our world and ourselves?
Those are fantastic questions to ponder. If philosophy was seen as a way of life, a spiritual exercise for thinkers like Simplicius, what might that suggest about how we approach learning and critical thinking in our own lives? Perhaps by embracing that spirit of inquiry, that desire for understanding and connection, we can all, in our own way, continue the tradition of acting as philosophers, and who knows what insights we might uncover along the way.